This from Bounding into Comics. What's that website? And X-Men 97 executive producer Beau DeMayo reveals series story is informed by his experience as a black gay man. This by John F. Trent. Now, the reason that I find this interesting, beyond the fact that we have somebody on the panel who may know John, is oh, hey, John. I find it interesting because Victoria Alonso was largely over the animation side of Marvel. A lot of people don't know that. She had tremendous influence. And she seems to have been the person who put Beau DeMayo in charge. Now, his portfolio, his resume is not all that impressive if you ask me. He's worked on a number of shows, but they've all had significant drama behind the scenes, or they have underperformed in terms of audience ratings and overall viewership. He's now in charge of X-Men 97. And here's what I'm going to say. And John, since you wrote the article, I'll give you first dibs on answering this. He has come out recently. Well, he came out a long time ago in that regard, but he's come out recently and made many statements about his orientation, about his ethnic background, pairs that together, and then it's become more intense lately. And here's what I think may be happening. Given that there is great question now at Marvel about what the direction should be, and given that Marvel is in sort of a free fall in terms of viewership, I wonder if he is not trying to politic a little bit to make sure that his animated series avoids some of these delays, reworks, etc., that we can expect for the other Marvel series. What do you think about that, John? Is there a bit of gamesmanship going on?
I watched this interview. I didn't get any sense of that whatsoever when he was talking about that. I thought he was being just pretty genuine about what he was talking about with the show. So I didn't really think that. The biggest takeaway I thought was, because I do think a lot of people are putting way too much emphasis on Alonso being fired and trying to claim that she's the one who's been behind all this. And I thought what was really interesting in his interview is he doesn't talk about her at all. He talks about Kevin Feige and Brad Winderbaum here being the ones that really wanted him to put his identity into the show. I mean, he even says here, I think one of my favorite parts was like they were truly interested in like what my experience as a black gay man was and how it was going to inform the story we were telling. And that to them was like, that is how we're going to make this authentic. And he's saying that's coming from Feige and Winderbaum. So I thought that was actually one of the more interesting parts of what he had to say here, is that it's not just Victoria Alonso. I think this is an institutional problem at Disney. I think we saw that in the Reimagine Tomorrow conference when Chapek was still in charge last February, I guess February 2022. And I haven't seen any real changes within Disney from Bob Iger to indicate that any of that is being changed from the company. So anyone trying to, in my opinion, trying to tell you that Disney might be turning a corner with the firing of Victoria Alonso with any of this stuff is just, I think they're wrong. This guy is telling me right here.
John,
this is one of the things that I've been saying for a while, is that because of Iger's push for Disney to move in a far left direction prior to him running the Democratic primaries, when he brought in so many people who are ideologically driven as opposed to merit or outcome driven, it's going to take, and I don't know that they have a desire to make this change. So don't think that's even beginning. But it's going to take maybe a decade to remove or to phase out the people who have come in, who they're primarily driven to generate socio-cultural change in the world. They want to engineer the narrative, to engineer the people who watch the content. And let me give you an example, then I want to hand over to Lorena for your thoughts. But if I were going to write a show for the X-Men, for example, I don't know that I could take my experiences and apply them to, let's say, Beast or Nightcrawler or Gambit. Like, I don't know that that's what I'm supposed to do. I don't know. I mean, I can go back into the experiences I've had in my life, and I can take from those to some degree. But I always thought that when I'm writing an established character, that I'm supposed to get into their shoes and imagine how they would respond based on their past experiences, not bring my own prism into that. Am I missing something?
No, you were not missing anything at all. And as someone who used to collect the X-Men comics, someone who used to save some of my lunch money or some of my wages for my part-time job in high school to buy X-Men cartoons, the comics, the one who watched the cartoons, if there's any kind of self-insert that you would make into X-Men if you've read them, is the thing of the mutants, how they're viewed from the outside. And just the fact that them being, especially at Professor X's school, or teaching at the school, that it was a place for them to finally not only belong, but how to use their powers and relate to society at large. So if I was writing, even if I didn't know anything about the X-Men, I, like you were saying, Pro, delve into their stories. Who are the characters? What are their motivations? How did they become mutants? What was their struggle with the outside world? See the things that are common themes that people can relate to. Sense of family, trying to find, your purpose, making the hard decisions, consequences of those decisions, working in a team, and also, improving your own skills. That is what you focus on, because that is what the audience tunes in to see. They are looking for the characters to be authentic. They're looking for themes they can relate to. We're not looking for your sexual orientation or whatever, or whatever your race is. My favorite character in the X-Men is Wolverine. I don't know if you noticed, but I don't look anything like Wolverine.
You're not a short Canadian man.
You got claws?
No. Is that
Well,
what?
You got claws, though.
Yes, I do. I do.
Yeah.
So there's a
Not
very
anime.
Interesting quote here on Bounding into Comics. I'd like to read this from DeMayo, again, the showrunner for the X-Men 97 reboot of the beloved X-Men cartoon from the 90s. Everybody, let's dive into this and see what you think. See if you agree with what I'm analyzing out of this.
Before you touch that, Pro, can I quickly
Yes.
add something to this? I speak because I was raised on this cartoon, as long as Spider-Man as well.
Oh, I love this cartoon.
That. But the thing, I'm gonna do two sides right here. I agree with what Lorraine is saying and everyone else is saying, but if DeMayo here is going to go at the fact of how being a black gay person makes them feel insecure and outcasted within human society, and can use that to apply on how a mutant feels in society and the way they're villainized and victimized and all that stuff, cool. You're literally taking the similarity of two things and adding to his already established character. If you can do that and relate your own emotional standards to how you feel and can relate to these characters and do it that way, you're perfectly fine. At the same time, I have a weird hunch feeling that he is going to Velma himself into his own weird type of immortality if he decides to go down that road. And that comes from the Feige concept.
Hey, Stephen, let me interrupt you real quick. Bounding into Comics right now is running a bra commercial. Everybody can see. Somebody get Bree back on the line. It's gone now, but Bree, if you're out there, we're here to help.
Targeted ads.
Hair clothes. Almost
Well
forgot
played,
that
John.
one.
Here is DeMayo's comment regarding X-Men. He says, because really what you're talking about with X-Men, I don't care what your religion, your nationality, your sex, your gender. You walk into a room full of people and you've gone, oh my gosh, there's no one here like me. And I think that is ultimately what X-Men is trying to get at. And so here's what I'm interested in about that comment. And Hughes, we haven't heard from you in a little bit. I want to get your take on this specifically. When I walk into a room of people, I don't necessarily look for people that look like me or are part of my very specific religious belief system or what have you. I'm not that interested in that when it comes to knowing about people. I think some of those things, like the color of one's skin or how tall someone is or what their accent is, that's some of the lowest resolution perception of a person, that in reality, the character that a person has is far more important for whether or not I'm going to like you, get along with you, relate with you, etc. What do you think about this quote?
Man, my thing is, and brought this quote, what made me jump at me the first was the fact that, okay, let's say that, with what he just said here, but it says, I don't care what your religion, your nationality, or your sex or your gender, you walk into a room full of people and you go and you've gone, oh my gosh, there's no one in here like me. Here's the thing though, the people that you're trying to reach out to, you're going to assume that they're like you too. But the thing is, a number of them probably don't want the same thing. Prime example, like, okay, a lot of the shows, not just X-Men coming up, and it's like, well, the thing about the past shows of like a lot of virtue signaling was brought into it. Guess what? I know a lot of people out here who are gay, part of the LGBTQ community. A number of them say, look, it's cool and all, but I don't want to throw it in my face because, like, yeah, we've gone through like a lot of these hurdles and struggles for the past decade and everything, to the point where now you're starting to overdo it a bit. Like, you're gonna make it bad for the rest of us. And the thing is, like, me being a black man, I'm gonna stick with what Lorena Creel had said when she was up here. I watched the X-Men when I was growing up. Two of my favorite characters were Storm, a black woman, not because she's black, but because of the fact that she's super powerful and she's also reserved that time. Then also like Beast. Beast, he's also reserved and calm too. He knows what it's like to be human, and he's a mutant. He's far more human than any of the men and women out there who went against him could ever be. But my thing is, I don't want to see a superhero because let alone a black superhero because I'm black and everything. I want to see a black superhero because it's a superhero. I know them as a superhero. Okay. And with all the virtue signaling that's happening here, like, this people are different. Okay, with this guy stating that, okay, I'm going to do the show to show them, how I am, how my thoughts are and everything. I could be wrong. Somebody correct me if I am wrong. But the thing is, everybody's different. Even those who are in a part of the LGBTQ community, they're all different. And guess what? Pretty sure none of them don't really care about that. They just want to be entertained. And also, people who are heavily into politics, they want an escapism like X-Men to escape from, to just at least take a break from it. But no, you're just going to mess up their mental psyche just for throwing this stuff out there to them.
Well, the interesting thing to me is that if I think about all of my friends and acquaintances of every imaginable race, I can think of people of every race who I just think are heroes. I mean, I just love being around them. I want to be around them more. I want to be more like them. And I can also think of people of every race who annoy the living daylights out of me and do really stupid things that I detest. And it's like, I don't know anything about somebody just based on how they appear. That really gives me nothing to go on.
It will be
there
Pluto
is
Nash.
a $5 super chat from Hillis Mallory, who says, Puss in Boots has made more than Ant-Man Quantumania thus far. Thoughts on this?
Well, I'll give my thoughts and I'll hand it to everybody else. What I would say is that this was unthinkable just a few years ago. Who could have ever thought that a Shrek spinoff would beat a major Marvel tentpole movie, especially one that is supposed to be launching an entire phase and the saga of a major villain? And so it's not surprising that we are seeing Victoria Alonso exited out the door, considering how bad this is. It's not that Disney disagrees with her. It's simply that they can't do this from a financial standpoint. They can't fail at that level. But we've seen clips of Victoria Alonso before and know just how bad she is. Thank you, Stephen, for supplying that clip of Victoria Alonso out in the streets. I believe, what is that? New York, perhaps?
That was
Sewers of New York?
I think it was Gotham.
That's not a real place. You fooled me.
It was of Gotham.
And Tommy Tables again. Pal, you are great. For $6.99 Canadian. What do you think about the rumors that Feige was scared of Alonso and let her run rampant in Phase 4 and 5 to avoid being canceled publicly? If I can jump in here, has anyone seen the Above the Line podcast that recently dropped?
I have not.
Is that Jeff Snyder?
Jeff Snyder and Roca was on that. They were saying that there's a three-way battle in Marvel Studios. If this starts to sound familiar, different little silos within the company having internal struggles within themselves, that Louis D'Esposito and Kevin Feige and Victoria Alonso were all kind of butting heads here for the last little while, with Victoria Alonso having an oversized amount of control. Whether that's true or whether that's the narrative that Kevin Feige wants out in the market, who knows?
I think that Feige has major issues with creating stories now that he doesn't have constraints. I don't doubt, though, that he and Alonso did not get well, because he doesn't seem to have stepped in to try to save her job. And that's been pointed out in the media that he did not try to do anything to stop this. That said,
Variety reported that.
Yeah, when it comes to ideology, I don't think that they're far off based on everything I'm reading from their commentary.
I want to read this this little blip of this latest Variety article that actually went into that. Just a tiny bit. While the cause of Alonso's termination is unclear, the sources said the decision was made by a consortium, including Human Resources, Disney's legal department, and multiple executives, including Disney Entertainment co-chairman Alan Bergman, to whom all of Marvel Studios reports. Alonso's longtime boss and Marvel Chief Creative Officer Kevin Feige felt mired in an impossible situation and ultimately did not intervene, one source said. Alonso was blindsided, another insider added. So that's a very kind of interesting thing where Kevin, he didn't get in between this, just kind of let it happen. That
seems like another instance where I forget what the last time that happened was, but Kevin Feige seems to be very good at keeping his nose clean in all of this.
Very insulated.